to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Fair play to Ade. It's now, nearly 5 o'clock, right at the end of the press conference, not way past the press conference. You're still here. You're like Eddie Hearn, grafting.
Got a graph, man, got a graph. You've seen a lot of you guys graphs. I thought, you know what, I can stay here, do some more interviews, and I enjoy it as well. Talking boxing, you can't go wrong.
What did you make of the talk up there today with Jermaine Franklin? What did you make of his demeanour?
Jermaine's confident. He's happy to be here. Obviously, this is a big opportunity for him. If you know his story in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, this is a guy that almost had to walk away from boxing to kind of put money on the table. And now look, he's going back to back. Dillian Whyte would have been paid well. This one, though, he's going to get 7 figures. So I feel like for him, it's good. He's confident. He looks a lot leaner as well already. So he's lost some weight. But it's all about AJ. This is Anthony Joshua, isn't it? New trainer. I think he was a bit fiery up there at times. But look, I think he knows the pressure's on, right? He's got to, for me, it's not just a win, he's got to look good as well. I think people have accepted this fight just with the idea, okay, AJ knocks him out and then we go to the summer and it's a Dillian Whyte or a Hrgovic, and then in the winter it's one of the big boys. So I think AJ's got to look good, and I feel like we kind of sense the pressure starting to maybe build just a little bit because of what's expected.
You said that people have accepted this fight. I put it to Eddie Hearn that he wanted an orthodox fighter, not a southpaw, so that eliminates your likes of Otto Wallin and Zhilei Zhang. But there are still fighters like Filip Hrgovic, Joe Joyce, who are well ranked above Jermaine Franklin. So yourself as a boxing fan, do you accept Jermaine Franklin?
Look, I have to be frank, I was disappointed when it was announced. I remember I sat down with AJ, I think about 4 months ago, and I said, okay, Hrgovic, I said, Zhang, because we wasn't talking about the southpaw split then, Otto Wallin, I said, any of those guys? He's like, yes. So when it came to be Franklin, I was like, whoa, 1 second, I didn't even think of Franklin. This is the guy that lost his last fight, albeit somewhat controversial. The record books say he lost. So it did surprise me. It surprised me a lot. And I'm not really having that sort of, we didn't want a southpaw thing. I'm not quite sure if that one is.
Well, if you are targeting Dillian Whyte in the summer and hopefully a Deontay Wilder or maybe even a Tyson Fury at the end of the year, from that point of view, it makes sense, no?
I agree, but 95% of his fights have been against orthodox. So it's not like he doesn't know how to fight orthodox guys, you know what I mean? I know his last 2 have been the same guy and it's been the best southpaw we've seen in years, but he fights orthodox guys, he spars orthodox guys, so it is something he's used to. But yeah, going back to it, look, I know fans aren't going to be happy with Franklin, and that's why I say AJ's got to get a job done. Like him going points with Franklin, like Dillian Whyte did always, or struggling, I think fans won't accept if he destroys him. And then he moves on in the summer. Look, he said he's going to have 3 fights. If that's true, I think we'll look back on this one at the end of the year and say, okay, yeah, that Franklin one was a good one, but we still got Whyte, we still got Joe Joyce, we still got Wilder. So I think we'll accept it for now, but we need better in the summer.
That Joshua announcement came with the whole DAZN schedule and a price change, 3 separate payment plans. The one notably that was £7.99 on a flexible plan where you could cancel any time has now gone to £19.99.
Is that the jump?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to ask fans, isn't it? I mean, look, I remember speaking to someone about this. I was like, okay, if you're going to jump, no one wants a price hike in anything, right? We don't want pay-per-views. We don't want a price hike. If you are going to jump, then the catalogue needs to be better, right? Fight fans will always pay if something's good. I think we've seen that, right? With pay-per-views. We don't want a pay-per-view, but if it's good, we'll pay. We don't want to buy tickets, but if it's good, you'll see packed arenas and stadiums. They're not going to want this price hike, but they will pay if they look at the catalogue and say, wow, look what we've got from DAZN. We've got these amount of fights, and they're special, and they're world title fights, and Golden Boy have added this as well, and there's other sporting events coming on. If you don't get that, and I think fight fans are thinking we're not getting that, then you're going to moan. So I think Joe Markowski and the rest of DAZN and Eddie need to say, okay, we need to start stacking these. I do feel, though, I know Eddie announced his 8-fight card. I still think there's a lot more coming.
Yeah, I mean, Canelo's fights will be announced. Conor Benn, pending his situation, that will be announced. But I guess the overall point and picture at the moment is that you've got Sky, BT and DAZN. Now obviously Sky and BT have a massive advantage because they have the Premier League and Champions League rights, which is the pull for the average sports person in this country. I guess DAZN's offering in terms of their boxing has to be exceptionally better than BT and Sky to pull people in. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah. Look, no one's paying for Sky because of boxing. You're paying for it because of football, and then boxing's on. Same with BT. No one's paying to watch Queensbury on BT. You're paying it for Champions League football, and then boxing's on as well. So you feel like you get that as a package, and that's one thing DAZN has always struggled with. I remember when DAZN said they're going to enter the market, I was like, they need football. You need anything, even if it's League Cup or Championship. You need some form of football on there, and people won't moan as much. So you're right, because they don't have that football pool. Because let's be honest, I mean, UK fans aren't going to be excited by PFL and maybe by the NFL thing. That's not going to pull them. You need to stack the cards. And again, that's something that Eddie, and not just Eddie, it's not just, I feel like people just think it's Metro and Eddie. Golden Boy, Oscar, they need to put on better cards as well. Like I hate the fight that they're trying to do with Zerdo, Ramirez and Gabe Rosado. Everyone needs to step up. So look, that's Matchroom. They're going to have to step up. You can't hike the price up and keep it at this quality. You're going to need to go another level so people don't cancel subscriptions. It's always weird because as soon as it gets announced, everyone's like, I'm cancelling. I don't think 90% of them, I think, keep it, but they're saying they're cancelling. So I think there's only need to look at that though as well and think, okay, people aren't happy. How do we improve it?
Last topic, the much discussed division at the moment, the light heavyweight division after Anthony Yarde's incredible challenge against Artur Beterbiev. We've also had Craig Richards announced with Ricard Bolotnick for AJ Franklin card, which is a very good fight as well. Whispers of Joshua Buatsi challenging Dimitri Bivol. About time Joshua Buatsi gets into this sort of fight, a limelight fight, and if he pulls it off, would be one of the best wins by a British fighter, I think.
Yeah, back to the start there, it's a fantastic division. Honestly, it's stacked, not just over here, worldwide. I mean, obviously you've got the two gods in Beterbiev and Bivol, but just below them you've got Joe Smith, you've got Marcus Brown, Vozdik's fighting, I think, next weekend. I think I saw that he's back as well. So if he looks half as good as he did when he retired, then you've got to add him to it as well. Dan Aziz doesn't get mentioned enough. He's desperate for one of those. Everyone seems to be in a fight apart from Dan Aziz. But yeah, Buatsi needs it. Desperately needs it. Obviously, look, we know that he's out of contract. And if Matchroom said, okay, stay, we'll give you the Bivol fight, then he's going to sign up, right? He's going to sign up and he's probably going to sign a 5-fight deal. He desperately needs that fight. He was ringside watching Bivol versus Gilberto Ramirez as well. He was on like a bit of a spying mission. Tough fight for Buatsi, but it was a tough fight for Yarde. Even in a loss, you can take, your stock can rise. So if Buatsi just looks good, then his stock will go up. It's not always about taking a fight you know you can win. It's about taking a fight that you know that there's a good chance that even if you lose, you're in good fights. Almost a bit like what Bivol did with Canelo. Anything can happen. Now look at Bivol's stock. Bivol's gone through the roof, right? He's a pound for pounder now, right? So I think, yeah, it's good. My only concern with Buatsi, he's not fought since he fought Richards. So by the time, if this Bivol fight happens, you're talking May, June, he'd have been out of the ring for a year again. It's not good to go in there against a pound for pounder when you've been out of the ring for a year. But look, I'm happy for him. He needs a big fight. He needs a marquee fight, and fingers crossed he gets it.
If he doesn't get it, is it time that we see Yarde v Buatsi? And is that still a big fight? In fact, it might even be a bigger fight. I know Yarde just lost, but because of the performance and his stock has gone up, probably is a bigger fight.
Yeah, look, I mean, Buatsi was on the BT Sports coverage, and they asked him, and I wanted him to say, I want Yarde next. I'm like, come on, Buatsi, say something. I spoke to Yarde for DAZN about 4 or 5 days ago, and I said to him, I want that fight. I said, just give me that fight. And he's like, he was offered the fight just before the Beterbiev fight. So he's been offered Buatsi, so Matchroom obviously keen to do something there. I do wonder how it will work. Yeah, I mean, is Yarde...
Frank will want that to be Yarde Buatsi, especially with Buatsi out of contract at the moment, as Yarde is the A side. I'm guessing, because they built up Yarde.
And this is the problem with the sport, isn't it? I mean, that sums it up right there, right? It's a big problem. But hopefully we see something similar with, I know it's slightly different, but Joseph Parker, Joe Joyce. Both of them would have wanted that on Sky and BT, but they came to some sort of arrangement. But it's always a big problem. I wonder how many fights Yarde has got left on his BT Sports contract. No one seems to talk about that. But if I'm Yarde, I want that fight. If I'm Buatsi, I want that fight. And you're right, it probably is a bigger fight over here than Bivol Buatsi. I mean, that's a fight I think that fills out the O2 Arena. We've wanted it for 4 or 5 years. It's a great fight. 50-50 scrap as well. Love it. I love it. And if he can't get Bivol, he should be gunning for Anthony Yarde. That's the one to make.
I agreed. That's a no-2 fight. It's just something about the names
Yeah.
Yarde and Buatsi. It goes together.
London boys as well, innit? London boys, you got one from South London, you got one from East London, North will turn up, West will turn up, I will turn up, you will turn up. Perfect fight.
ADE, thank you very much for your time and we'll see you soon.
Cheers,
Take
man.
care.
Take care.
All right.
I'm gonna share something with you that might put me in a very negative light. Yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.